Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Dungeons and Dopamine. Hello! Welcome to episode 101 of Dungeons and Dopamine. I'm Jess.
I'm Brie.
And I just can't believe this is 101. Also, can't believe that we're not talking about Dalmatians.
We really dropped the ball on that.
We really did.
All that planning for episode 100 and we dropped the ball on 101.
This is the only excuse we would ever have to fill up this office with puppies. Like, what's wrong with us?
What if we had done like an adoption event with a puppy place and just filled your house with 101 dogs?
My dogs would hate it.
Absolutely.
My husband would hate it. Especially after I stashed several of them in a closet for myself.
He's really happy he's hearing about this on episode 101 and not before
And not the
episode
day
101.
The day that everyone showed up with the puppies.
It'd have to be like multiple dog rescues.
It would have to be so many. No, I'm afraid that I'm bumping the table that's holding our mics, and it's making thump noises in the microphone.
It's gonna spill your water and my M&Ms all at the same time.
It would be really sad to spill this, because the secret is that it's not water.
It's Red Bull.
It's Red Bull.
It's never
And
a
vodka.
secret. Oh, that would be a surprise.
That would be a nice episode of, like, loosey-goosey.
Woohoo! That'll have to be an after dark episode
That's what
sometime.
we should do for the 100th episode.
I will.
100 shots in 100 minutes.
We're done.
Worth it.
This episode is being recorded even though we died when we recorded the 100th episode.
This is our farewell. Actually, the next one. We're going to do 2 today.
True. So
that could be our farewell. It's a good send-off.
my topic is great for dying.
Oh,
I'm
good.
so excited now.
Mine is too.
This is the best this has ever worked out.
We're actually getting this. It's
We're
too bad we're
professionals
dead.
at podcasting.
It's really a shame. This is delicious.
Her vodka Red Bull.
There was something else I wanted to talk about. I thought of it. I thought really hard before we started recording because I didn't have another thing to talk about.
And it was Easter.
Yes. Sure.
Yeah.
It's almost Easter. That's about all I've got.
It's an interesting Easter this year. It's also 420.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I did notice that.
Mm-hmm. It's also my sister-in-law's birthday weekend.
We're slightly, like, our Easter egg hunts are the tiniest bit lame. Like, you still get to hunt the eggs and stuff. That's cool. And you still get, like, a basket full of crap. But good crap, not literal crap.
Thank you for clarifing.
Yeah, you know.
Man,
just to
Easter
be
at
sure.
Jessica's house sounds awful.
She hates those kids. But we do 2. We do one just like the little tiny close family, and then we open it up to the extended family on my mom's side. So instead of keeping track of like what each kid gets, because we have a really big age gap between the youngest and the oldest. Aiden's turning 16, Carly's almost 9.
Right.
Like, that's pretty big, especially when they were little, her and my cousin's youngest. So we do empty eggs.
Okay.
Because otherwise it's like, okay, well, each of you can get 20 eggs, or look for the purple ones.
Right.
Those are
You
your
have
color.
to do all the blue ones, and you have to do all the purple ones, and yeah.
So you still get the excitement of finding the eggs, but you don't get, I guess, that excitement of sitting and cracking them open and seeing what you've got. But each kid gets an Easter basket from everyone in the family. So they end up leaving with 4 Easter baskets.
Yeah, I'd say that's worth it.
It's a good trade. It's still fun. It's just, when I was a kid and we did Easter egg hunts, there were only 3 of us. And it was like, okay, here's the list of things you get. And we would walk around and I'd be like, I have 4 Hershey eggs. I guess I'll skip that one. And like moving on, it's just really hard.
Yeah. That's
And
interesting.
You don't want the kids to be uneven because
Right.
that stinks. Like, that's not fun.
That's the one Easter egg hunt I did for Connor and
yeah.
Nicholas. I like bought all the same stuff And then I'm sure I did colors. Like, Connor had all the green ones and Nicholas had all the blue ones because everything had to be even and matched. And then, like, we're out there searching for the eggs. I'm like, no, that's a green one. That's for Connor. You gotta skip that. It was awful.
Yeah.
We must not have done them when I was a kid. Or it was
just
more like
you got
they hid like the hard-boiled decorated eggs.
Yeah.
And then we got an Easter basket.
Gotcha.
Like, it wasn't the plastic eggs that had stuff in it. Because there's no way.
Me
and Joey and Jody were fighting over Easter eggs.
Right. Well, and it's just so hard. I thought you were going to say that you brought Connor to one of those public Easter egg hunts, which I've heard such horror stories.
We go to one, but it's friends of ours that have a farm. And even though
cute.
she just had her first grandbabies this year, so she hasn't had children that were of age to participate in this in any of the time she's done it. Like, her kids are grown-ups. But she does like 1,500 Easter eggs and just invites all of her friends and all of her friends' children over. And now, like, the first couple years she did it on her own, and now she throws like a Easter egg stuffing party, and everybody goes over and helps her.
Fun.
And we all contribute money and candy and all this stuff, so she's not doing it on her own.
That's a good way to do it, because otherwise you start to get kind of bitter that you're the one doing all the work and all the money. And
it's fun, like, and she just throws all the eggs out, like, they're not super well hidden, and she just does, like, for the first 2 minutes, it's only the 0 to 2 year olds.
Yeah.
And then after a few minutes, she lets the 3 to 5 year olds go. And then eventually Connor gets to go. And everybody gets way too many eggs and a whole bunch of candy. And I don't have to do it at all. It's great.
Right? I know.
But I'm also not dealing with public Easter and people, like, snatching eggs out of Connor's hands. Or, like, weird things hidden in eggs.
Yeah. I watched one the other day where I guess the parents were allowed out there with the children, which I think should not be allowed.
Right.
And one of the parents saw someone coming and kicked the egg that was on the ground right there to their kid instead of just letting this other kid come up and get it. And I've seen, like, videos where they're videoing their kid with 4 eggs, and then they pan over and there's a kid over here, like, heaped in a pile of eggs, like Scrooge McDuck.
Swimming in them.
Exactly. And I'm like, it just doesn't seem like fun. I know everything doesn't have to be fair, and someone out there in the world is going to be like, what a millennial, everybody gets a trophy kind of mindset. But I don't want my kid to be out there, like, punching other kids so that she can have all the eggs.
Over Easter eggs.
Exactly. And last year, she actually got the most. She's the youngest, and she got the most eggs out of everybody else.
Well, and the thing I like about our friend's party is it's still, like, old school Easter egg. I mean, we're not doing hard-boiled eggs, but it's like
that'd be so expensive
candy
this year.
And trinkets and like little stamps and tattoos and stuff. But Alice has a coworker that is, like, every year her Easter egg hunt is growing. And we don't go because it always happens to be the same time as the one we go to.
Yeah.
But they're getting extreme with some of their prizes, and like, or you, like, get an egg and it's got a ticket in it and you can go turn it in for, like, a bigger prize. And that's when I feel like feelings start getting hurt and people start getting greedy, and it starts to be more like, oh, you gotta get that one because it's gonna have a prize, and we gotta hurry up and run over here and push that kid out of the way so we can make sure we get the cool prize.
There's
and
the gold egg. There's
the garbage prizes.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, no, just take your candy and be happy.
Exactly. I've also noticed that some of the Easter baskets that people are doing online are insane.
Yeah, it used to be, like, just candy and maybe, like, some chapstick.
Yeah.
And
Bubbles,
now it's basically
usually,
like another
jump
Christmas.
Rope. Yeah.
Sidewalk chalk.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's all the fun stuff you're going to need for summer. I've heard a lot of people put swimsuits in theirs, which I thought about, but Carly has, like, 9. So I was like, perfect. Oh, I'm over the time. I was like, I don't see the time. Oh, no.
What's happening?
Also,
what's going on?
I think it was our last 2 episodes, because the computer was so far away and I don't wear my glasses when we record. We stopped
because you get a glare like this.
Exactly. Every so often I'd stop talking and be like, thankfully I think I cut it out of all of them, but
I hope not. I can't wait for the episode we release where it's just you making faces.
I have so many. Those aren't even like real ones. They're so bad. They're so bad. What is wrong with you? Looking in my own eyes as I say this. There's probably going to be a face in there. That was one.
That's one. That's why I wear my glasses. So all of my... I can just hide it in these glares.
I was meant to do improv, apparently. Facial improv.
Facial improv. It'll be
I
a
never
whole new
thought
genre.
I was like a really expressive person.
Until you started watching yourself on
Yeah.
screen.
And then I'm like, wow.
Why am I always doing that?
And like, what do people think? I sometimes my facial
you made
expressions.
it this far in life and nobody ever told you.
Thanks a lot, all friends. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
No problem. You know, I have always said that we have faces for podcasting. I did not say we had faces for visual podcasting.
I actually believe what you said was we have voices for radio.
That too. We do also have that. Thank you.
I wanted to try and do like a sultry voice, but we all know that's not coming out of me.
Now without some giggles at least.
Right? And weird faces, because that's apparently all I got.
Your new thing.
Apparently it's an old thing that no one told me about. It's just new to me.
Apparently we've all known this whole time.
I'm going to tell you about Egypt.
Whee!
So I know we say it at the end of every episode, but we wanted to remind you that we are on like every social media, always, all the time.
And all the streaming platforms that
True.
you can find podcasts on, and including YouTube, which has really been awesome lately.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And
It's
we're visual
grown.
now.
We're visual.
That's new.
We can see.
You can see us. Unfortunately.
So you can find us on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Insta, Reddit, Twitch, and Discord. And yeah, I had to read that.
Because otherwise we forget.
Because otherwise, like, when you ask my favorite movie, which is very obviously Lord of the Rings, but I've never seen a movie once
None.
you ask.
I don't even know what movies are.
What are a movie?
Where would I find that?
Exactly. And also, we do have a Patreon. So it's been a little slow. No one's done it. So I'm just going to come out
really
and say
slow.
it. So we haven't updated it.
But it's there.
But we will
And
if
we have
there's
content
activity.
for it if
Yeah.
anybody signs up.
I think our book list needs to be updated.
Ooh.
But anyways, I know we say it all the time, but you can reach out to us on our socials. You can reach out to us at dungeons&dopamine@yahoo.com. And that's all.
The end.
Let's
Okay,
talk about
bye.
Egypt. No, we're talking about
Oh,
Egypt.
shoot. Forgot.
I
Threw off my
am-
routine. I don't know what to do.
What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? So last week, 2 weeks ago, because it was episode 99,
Right.
not episode 100,
All those weeks ago.
I talked about some of the most popular gods, the well-known gods. I do want to note that, and I kind of touched on this already, but Egyptian religion lore is insane. I didn't even touch the surface. I barely made a ripple on the surface of the pond that is ancient Egypt religion, because I was doing more research because I'm obsessed. Even though this topic is done and written, I still needed to do more
I would
research.
like to go back to it, please.
Exactly. There's just so much more, like who Ra's parents are, and so there's gods that are even like earlier and bigger and more important. Just want you to know, I don't think that I have covered all of the gods of Egypt, all 1,500 of them.
She knows there's more.
So I just wanted to share on YouTube, Epic History Now is really good at covering more of them than me. They get more into the lore and the parentage of them.
So, like, if you concentrated the whole podcast just on ancient Egypt,
Yes.
that's what it would. Okay.
Yes.
Fair.
So I thought that was fun. Go check them out. They talk about Shu and Nut, and there's another one. There's another one that's right here. It's not coming out until I think of it in the middle of your sentence later. then I'm going to blurt it out.
That's exactly how it's going to happen.
There is a god named Nut, though, which is fun.
And shoe? Is that what you said the first time?
Shoe. Yep, shoe. Not like tennis shoe.
Like shoe? Get.
But there's so much cool stuff, and I can't cover it, and I feel overwhelmed, and I feel like I have to give these like pre-talks because I don't feel like I'm giving enough information. Like I'm missing
disclaimer
so
about
much.
how I'm doing a bad job on this.
Exactly. Just listen and do your own research.
And then go listen to all these other podcasts.
This one I don't think is a podcast. It's just a YouTube channel.
Well, excuse me. Sorry.
Get it together.
Let's start over.
Let's rewind. I'd cry. We have 20 minutes of solid content here.
And we'd never be able to replace it.
Never.
Just be 20 minutes of us being like,
what was it?
didn't we
about
say
after
something
that?
about...
Let's talk about the social media. Okay, so I want to start off with just a quick list of controversial or unusual gods. And then, like last week, I'll go back and kind of dive in and give you a little bit more history on some more and other gods. I do also have a little bit of content that I wasn't able to get to in my first week of fun facts, and I might tack that on at the end. We'll see.
If she left herself time, which she didn't.
Exactly. So, Set, who I vaguely mentioned in the last one because he had a contest with, I believe it was Osiris. Oh no, maybe it wasn't Osiris. I can't remember now. I think Osiris is the guy's Horus. Horus is...
Right.
They had a contest. It was gross. We talked about it a lot.
Yeah. It was pretty awful.
But he's a very villainized god. He is the god of chaos, violence, storms. But he's also a protector of Ra. As I mentioned, Ra does his like cycle where he goes through and he's the sun, and then he goes and he fights Apep or Apophis at night, the snake. Then he comes back up and the cycle goes over and over and over again. He's actually one of Ra's protectors. So he's not inherently just evil. He's just kind of the god of bad stuff, like Hades.
Okay, yeah.
So it kind of sucks for him, but...
But we understand him now.
We get it. He's probably morally gray and he's probably hot.
Obviously. They always are.
That's true. So then Aten, and this is the sun disk, and this one is worshipped specifically during, okay, I have to say these slowly because I've practiced them, but they're Egyptian words and they don't come out naturally.
You're not fluent in Egyptian yet? Is that an option on Duolingo?
It is. I don't know. I am. I just don't want to look cooler than I am already. No one
That's
can
fair.
handle that level of cool.
You're right.
I appreciate your backup on that. Noted. So, all right, he is worshipped exclusively during Akhenaten's monotheistic revolution. And it is seen as like heretical worship, so it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's heretical.
Yeah.
We're not gonna look into it.
We don't need to know any more than that.
It's bad stuff.
It's heretical.
Sobek. He is the crockle. Crockle? He's a crockle.
That's my favorite kind.
Makes me think of Stewie in that episode of Family Guy. Jackal, jackal, it's a jackal. But it's crockle, crockle, it's a crockle.
A jackal! Jackal! It's a jackal! It looks like a jackal! 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 It's a jackal! Jackal!
I'm just gonna get up and leave.
The end. Just
The
go.
last moment of the show ever.
You don't even like formally tell me that you're quitting. You just leave.
Just leave.
Wait and leave later, and then you never mention it again.
You don't even see me when you go to leave. Like, you ask Ryan, is she okay? And he's like, I don't know. I thought you guys had a fight. She's taking a bath.
Show up again, all of the equipment's removed, the
I'm sold.
banner's gone.
I don't even play video games anymore because I sold the computer.
You're just like, what? What podcast?
What?
I've
what
never
is
podcasted
Dungeons
before.
and Dopamine. Oh, don't they play D&D? So Crockle. No, he is a crocodile-headed god associated with protection and destruction. He's really scary.
He sounds scary.
There's more I have about him, but and then last on this list I have Bess. And Bess is a dwarf god, and he's the dwarf of protection and childbirth, which is interesting because there is another goddess of childbirth, which I will get to after these messages. I looked at the camera like it was time for a break.
After a word from our sponsors.
I don't know what just happened.
Are there any other male gods of childbirth?
Just Bess.
You sounded very confident in that.
Well, there's 1,500 and I know all about all of them.
Right.
I can only speak about them in ancient Egyptian. Actually, did you know that it's not on Duolingo, even people have asked for it, because ancient Egyptian is all sort of, not a dead language, but it's sort of just guesswork. Like we're kind of, the hieroglyphs, and we're kind of interpreting it as best as we can.
Right.
As the best as we can. Crockle. I haven't gotten better in 101 episodes.
I beg to differ.
It only gets better and better every week. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about each of these gods. I also have a couple gods that I'm going to throw in. I do believe I talked about Apep last week. No, I talked about Apep 2 weeks ago. Get it together. But
Jessica.
In case I didn't, and I just kicked this, in case I didn't, he's the serpent god of chaos, and he battles Ra every night. I don't know what his point is. He's gonna try and eat him in, like, Darkness Falls? I don't know. Ragnarok, I think, is kind of the idea
Probably.
of it.
It sounds similar. And
Yeah.
they all copy each other.
Exactly. We're gonna talk about Bess. Bess is a dwarf. He's often depicted, well, nude. Many of these are depicted nude, or just barely covered.
Mm-hmm. As the gods do.
Yeah. Nakedness. And he has a lion's mane. And he's often depicted with, like, sticking out his tongue. Because he's kind of silly and fun. And he's kind of like the god of the people. Like, he's fun. He's silly. Yeah, I don't know.
None of those things are childbirth.
Or protection.
Right.
Like, you'd think that the protection god wouldn't be silly.
He'd be, like, gruff and
Yeah.
protecty.
I don't know. I didn't make it up.
Why not, Jessica?
This isn't real.
God, that would be awesome. I just found out this far into it that you're not even researching the topics. You just make up topics.
You'd think I'd be better at saying my own made-up names, but I put letters into ChatGPT and ask it to make up a name for me.
It's perfect.
Bess is known for scaring away evil spirits by making loud noises and, like, jump scaring them.
That's how he protects people.
It specifically said pulling faces, which I like. That's what you'd accuse, like, a kid.
Right.
I saw you pulling faces at me while I was talking to you. I was gonna say telling you off, and I'm like, that sounds awful.
To your kid.
So, to go along with Bess, and they are apparently in a relationship from the what I've read, is Taurette.
Okay. Bess
She's-
and Taurette.
She's a hippo. She walks on 2 legs.
Of course.
She has the limbs of a lion, and her back is a crocodile, but she also has a tail.
Crocodile tail?
Yeah. Oh, and she has woman's boobs.
Oh, good.
Like real
Good.
woman's boobs, not hippo boobs.
Do you have a picture of her?
I can.
Okay,
I
good.
can.
Good. Gonna need that.
They also put her in Moon Knight and did a really good job of depicting her. I don't think she... and she's pregnant all the time,
Obviously.
which is miserable.
She's got the lady boobs. She's
Right.
gotta be pregnant.
Right. I don't know that she's pregnant, and I don't think you see her breasts in Moon Knight. It's not that kind of show. So,
Bummer. I'm not going to watch it then.
But he's that white guy. Uh, so she protects women who are pregnant or in childbirth. One cool thing, and the reason that is that the reason she's so like strange, like that's a very freaky sounding thing to
Hippo,
see.
human, crocodile,
Yeah.
lion.
She's meant to be scary so that she'll scare off the evil spirits who might come for women when they're pregnant.
Okay.
So I kind of like her.
Yeah.
But
If I have a goddess of protection watching over me, that's what I want her to look
yeah,
like.
I want her to do her job.
Yeah.
I want her to scare people. She can't be like frilly, and I don't want a poodle.
Right. It's got to be a lion, hippo, crocodile
Boob.
lady.
That's all I'm
forget
gonna
the
clip.
boobs.
That's
Don't
the
forget the
only
boobs.
clip I'm clipping from this whole episode. Is just me saying boob. That's all. I'm just gonna put it up online and see what happens.
I mean, that will be how we go viral. I'm sure of it.
boob.
Boob.
Now I'm gonna cut all of the times that we've said it and put it in a clip. Okay, so Set again, villainized, but a protector of Ra. The weird thing about Set is that the historians can't agree on what Set is.
Oh.
His appearance, a mysterious creature with a canine-like body, squared ears, and a long curved snout. Some say that he's an aardvark. Yes.
Yay!
And then others say that maybe he's the mythical chimera.
Oh, yeah. That would make sense.
And that would be scary.
Because
much scarier than an
different
aardvark.
animals mixed together.
Yeah.
Which, so
Maybe
when
both.
when I talked about chimeras, whenever it was, or when I talked about the
D&D maybe?
one of the
Yeah.
or one of like Connor's topics, the manticore is a type of chimera.
Oh,
Because
okay.
it's just when multiple animals are mixed together. So
Got
like
it.
even
So most of these,
yeah,
like
with the
Taurette
hippo,
would be
yeah,
considered.
the hippo, lion, boob lady.
Boob. I'm gonna have to cut all these out. I'm so annoyed with myself. So he's the god of chaos, storms, deserts, and violence. He's not got like a great role, but he is fairly. I mean, if you want someone to protect Ra, you want the god of violence. He probably doesn't have any holdups about attacking Apep. So I don't know. Sobek, I can't remember the word I used, but crocodile god. Crockle. The crockle god.
The crockle god.
The crockle god. He's a man with the head of a crocodile. This is weird. And I found this in some places and I couldn't find it in others. So maybe it's one of those weird people argue about it things, or maybe just people can't find the information. He's the god of the Nile, which makes sense. Fertility, which doesn't make sense. And military prowess.
Sure.
The Nile...
Those are things I mix together.
Perfect. Nile, perfect sense. Absolutely. The only thing I can think of with fertility is like running water.
Yeah. Yeah, plentiful water.
I don't know.
Flowing
Abundant.
river.
I have no
Yeah.
idea. And now I have to kind of pick through my favorite ones because I'm running out of time.
This, again, is an every week thing.
Right. I don't know if you remember last week we talked about Thoth. Who I also was watching a video today, and the one that from the company or the people that I recommended, and they were calling him Thoth, but also
Thoth? Also. That's amazing.
Thoth, but also Thoth.
Okay.
And they did both, and I'm like, that's really confusing.
Pick one.
Pick one. It's like Tamatoa.
Yeah, pick one. Pick one.
There's gotta be a way to say it correctly, and I want to know.
So anyway, sorry. But as I mentioned, he is an ibis, but also sometimes a baboon in depictions. Well, Bobby is only a baboon. But he's not only a baboon, he's a bloodthirsty baboon.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So I forgot one detail about this. Okay. Shouldn't have put that in my notes. I should have just skipped it. He's a ferocious baboon with excitement. Yeah. He's
What is it with these gods
Right?
and their erections?
right. He's the god of virility, which I guess explains that, and aggression. Which, why are those together?
Right?
Ew. No wonder we have a masculinity problem in the world.
It's very woke,
But that's,
Jessica.
I know, I was just gonna say, maybe that's too woke. Dialing it back. So if that's not, like, enough, there's a weird detail about him. He's known for his violent and bloodthirsty nature. And in the afterlife, he devours the souls of the unworthy, similar to Amit, the little crocodile guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's sort of like a bouncer at a gym. Or not a gym, but a club.
Right.
Bouncers at gyms, maybe.
I mean-
maybe they should.
Maybe I'd go.
One of my favorite gods is Bast or Bastet. She's a cat.
Ooh.
She's specifically a protector of Ra. She's kind of depicted as like a lioness in earliest stuff, and then forms more into like a house cat as time goes by.
She's like, I'm fine being domesticated.
Exactly. I mean, it's rumored that cats domesticated themselves.
Who wouldn't want to be taken care of and just
Legit.
be able to lay around and do whatever you want all day?
My cat.
And, like, be known that your personality sucks. So if you just
Yeah.
want to, like, slap somebody and go away, you can. And
You
people are just like, yeah, man, that's what cats do.
All you have to do is like lay down in the rug and be like, and people are like, "Oh, I forgive you."
And then I
Here's some
could come up
fish."
and knock stuff over, and people will be like, oh, that's just cat things.
I'm gonna record that and put it on the internet. So she also travels with Ra. She's in the not Percy Jackson books. I can't remember the author, which is crappy of me. It'll come to me, but it'll be too late.
Rick Riordan.
Thank you. Yeah, that. So he does an Egypt series, and she's a big character
he?
in that. Yeah, it's really good. I mean, I know they're geared more
does
toward
it
youngers, but so also called Bastet, she's adorable. She's a really great character in the book. She's kind of a hero character, helps the kids that are in the book, and that's why she's one of my favorites. I just think she's adorable and fun, and she's probably scary, but
Not for you.
not for me. So the gods, I have more, but I don't have time. So
I have more, but
we can't.
there are other hosts on this podcast, Jessica.
There were. Just push your chair. Oh, sorry, you kicked it. There were. Boom.
You're lucky it didn't roll away.
I know. They're so rolly. So the gods were worshipped in a lot of different ways, but the most obvious are that they built temples to them. And then like the usual rituals and offerings and burning things and
As you do.
as you do. The pharaoh, this is one thing I don't think I pointed out any of the times. The pharaoh was actually thought to be kind of a conduit, or like he had a closer connection to the gods. He or she, because you could be a pharaoh as a woman.
Which is awesome. Better than all those other cultures.
Exactly. But yes, you would think that your pharaoh was more connected to the gods, which is why they had the power to come in and change which gods were important at the time of their reign. Like,
Okay,
they could
that
kind
makes
of come in
sense.
and make up what they wanted to.
Especially with so many to choose from.
Yes. Then one thing I did go back and research, because we kind of talked about it. I don't know if it made it in, so we talked about it.
So if you haven't heard it yet,
Yeah.
it happened.
That the worship of the ancient Egyptian gods pretty much ended in about the 30 BCs,
Okay.
in there somewhere. Then Egypt took over, or Romans took over Egypt, and Christianity came. Then the Arabic people came and took over and converted it to Islam, and that was about the 530s, and that's kind of where it's been
Okay.
since. Now, I googled, does anyone worship the old gods still? Because this kind of came from researchy type stuff, and it led me to Reddit. In a Reddit
Of
thread, do
course.
people still do this?
'Cause it
And
always does.
a lot of people on there said, yeah, I do. And then some people said, and this was just what I'm just telling you what they said. Don't get on my case about this. They said, Usually any old gods or old religion or old mythologies, anything, you're going to find some sort of cult that is worshiping them. That's the end of that.
That's how I created this form to join my new religious cult.
It's called the glitter cult. I thought we were just
worship
talking
the
about
old
it.
gods.
Exactly. Only the ones I like, though.
It would be Egyptian ones and like Celtic ones for my druidry.
And I can't say what I want to say because it's about my next episode, so I'm not going to go there.
No spoilers here.
No spoilers. But I thought that was really interesting, and I wish I could have told you more about gods, but I got excited and talked too much.
And there's 1,500 of them.
Buckle up.
You'll have to come back next week.
Also, just decided as I ended that from now on, I'm going to quote Forrest Gump and say, and that's all I have to say about that after the end of all of my topics. So get ready for that, too.
Can you go back and manually add them to all of
Every
your
episode.
previous episodes?
Especially the ones where it's visual. And I just...
You dubbed over.
Exactly.
Yes, please. I need you to do
I mean,
that.
if
I'm
I
never
asked-
coming back if you don't. There's been so many outs.
Right? We're giving each other so many options.
100 episodes was my limit. This 101st one is just too many.
This is too much. There's no puppies here.
I thought there were gonna be puppies.
Just promised puppies.
You know who loves puppies?
The dog man of Michigan.
Yeah. And Hank.
And Hank. Hank does love puppies, actually.
true.
I don't know about puppies specifically, but he does
At
love
least
his
dogs,
dog.
yeah. No, but also Batman. But not my dad, because my dad actually does not care for puppies. I mean, he thinks they're cute, but he doesn't want
He
them.
doesn't want one.
But anyway, I'm going to talk about Batman this week.
I would have thought it was weird if you weren't at that point, but like stranger things have happened, so
It's true. Completely like talking about houseplants.
who loves puppies? Batman. Anyway, I'm going to talk about how people make rugs.
It's my new hyper focus.
I'm
really
leaving
into
one.
looming lately. Anyway,
Right.
if you know my dad, you know my dad loves Batman.
He does love
It's
Batman.
been an ongoing joke for at least all of my life. Some of my friends even still call him Batman. Some of his friends still call him Batman. And recently, someone sent him an internet story about the origins of Batman. And so I did a deep dive. The internet story said, little known fact that Scotsman Wayne Bruce, descendant of Robert the Bruce, was the inspiration for the Batman comics. Wayne, who would wear a disguise and used his inheritance to take on criminals in the 1880s. This is a very poorly written story. This is also why Glasgow was used to depict Gotham in the Batman films as homage to the true origin story. This story is accompanied by a vintage-style photo of an older gentleman wearing a Batman mask, and he has, like, a giant bushy beard.
Oh, that's Santa with a Batman
Yes.
mask.
So as you can probably tell from how not excited I am about this is a completely fake story. There is nothing in any records that shows that a man named Wayne Bruce even lived, much less performed heroic acts at any point in history. The photo is also said to be someone else entirely, possibly a man named Bill Smith, who was a butcher.
Sorry, that's
And-
even more
Right.
great.
I'm still convinced this is an AI generated photo, and Bill Smith probably also doesn't exist. But supposedly he's a butcher that lived in the 1800s who may or may not also have performed heroic vigilante acts while wearing this mask. I think it's all made up. However, Batman's name does come from somewhere. In an old autobiography, Batman creators Bill Finger and Bob Kane, those are their real names.
It was like Bill Finger. I had to have misheard that.
One of the creators of Batman is named Bill Finger. They have stated that Batman's alter ego or real identity, Bruce Wayne, is named for two historical figures. Scottish King Robert the Bruce, so he was mentioned during the Wayne Bruce story, and then also a war hero from the Revolutionary War named Anthony Wayne. This is specifically about the name Bruce Wayne and how the creators came up with this name and who he is named for. This is not like Batman's origin story or how he came to be or like where they came up with all of their ideas from. This is specifically for the name Bruce Wayne. So, starting with Robert the Bruce, Bob and Bill had already created Batman when they started focusing on what to name his alter ego. So they actually went through historical figures and tried to pick someone that fit kind of a certain personality that they were aiming for. And they were kind of working on the Batman or Bruce Wayne as like the rich party kid that, you know, had a good heart on him, a good heart and did good things, but he was kind of just a rich asshole, to put it honestly. So like the playboy millionaire attitude. And so they specifically started looking at nobility because they felt like somebody that had all this money and had this kind of playboy millionaire attitude would probably be somebody that was born of nobility. So they first find Robert the Bruce, and Robert was the King of Scots from 1306 until he died in 1329. And there's just not really a ton of information about his childhood and upbringing, which is both because of poor records during that time and just because of how old this is. So a lot of it is like, this is how most nobles were raised during that age, so we don't have any specific on this man specifically, but he probably spoke these 3 languages and he probably visited these places and he was probably born in this, you know, castle estate in Scotland. He was the Earl of Carrick, which the title he received through his mother's line, and that is currently still a title, and it is held by Prince William.
Oh, okay.
So that is obviously an English or a title from England and has something to do with the lands and the estates that his mother's family was in control of. And Robert was also not the only male heir in line to be king. There were others that could have claimed the throne. And Scotland was kind of in a weird limbo at the time because England was still kind of trying to take it over and Scotland wanted to be free. So there were kings, but then there were guardians, and things were just kind of really up in the air for a while. So at one point, Robert does become a guardian, or the guardian of Scotland, but he has to share the role with another man that is also in line, who could also be king.
Robin.
Yes.
The look you gave me, like I was wrong. You made me doubt. Like, no, it is Batman and Robin. Stop.
Yes. No, actually, his name was John Common.
That's a terrible name.
Right? And they were, you know, sworn enemies, both because they both had claims to be king someday, like, be from their family lines, they both could have claimed it, but also because they were both then given this role where they were in charge of Scotland. And they actually disagreed and fought so much during this time that then a third man was assigned to be guardian of Scotland, so he could be like the peacemaker between the two, or like be the tiebreaker when they couldn't agree on things.
That's sort of sad. Like, you're grown men.
Right.
Get it together.
Later, Robert or his friends, it's a little unclear, murder John, and Robert fights his way to be the king. So he does eventually become the King of Scotland. And unfortunately, at this time, that's also when all of the conflict with England starts. So England is really trying hard to rule over Scotland. King Edward I attacks Scotland, and so King Robert has to immediately step into this role where he's defending his country.
So, question, sorry to interrupt. I mean, kind of, I interrupt you all the time. This is the same time as our amazing pirate lady, right?
Yeah.
And my castle, Chillingham.
Yep.
So they're creating ghosts at Chillingham while your pirate lady is bawling.
Over in Ireland.
And
this
wow,
guy
this is crazy.
Just become king, and now he's fighting for his country's freedom. And he initially loses. King Edward wins one big battle. He actually takes Robert's wife and his daughter, and I think like a sister prisoner, and like takes them over to England. probably like political prisoner style, where they had
Yeah.
to live over there, but they were treated relatively well. Kind of think like Sansa
Sure.
in Game of Thrones style. So at this point, Robert goes underground. He has to go into hiding because obviously King Edward wants to kill him because, you know, he's fighting
his
a revolution,
family.
basically. And all of his assets are seized. He loses his kingdom, and he's like basically sleeping in barns and under floorboards to keep hidden for this time. But he comes back. He starts to launch back with what people basically called guerrilla war tactics against England.
Okay.
And at some point during this, King Edward I dies and King Edward II takes over. And Robert comes back stronger than ever and defeats King Edward in a pretty large battle, even bigger than the one he had lost against King Edward I. Wow. So he is known as a great war hero. He is very beloved and very well known in Scotland because he helped keep their freedom and, you know, had to go into hiding and then come back and win it all at the end. He rules for 20 years. He fights some other conflicts. I think he tries to take over Ireland with his brother and he fails.
Can't we just leave well enough alone?
Right. If he would have just stopped when he was ahead, he probably would have been fine. And then he eventually dies of some mysterious illness, which really could have been anything from like strokes to cancer to syphilis, but they didn't have the technology and records were really spotty back then. It just basically says a mysterious illness that he dies just like a month before he turns 55.
Oof,
There
so young.
is a rumor that pops up eventually that says he died of leprosy, but there's just not really any significant evidence that would seeing constituents, and he was still meeting with people, and when they exhumed his body, like the bones and the facial structure didn't show that he had leprosy.
Which
so
it seems
probably
like
not
it would
true.
have. Yeah.
Right. His dying wish is to have his heart removed from his body, embalmed, and then brought to the Holy Land in Jerusalem before then being brought back to Scotland and buried at the Melrose Abbey. The rest of his organs are buried at St. Cerf, which is near his family home. And then his body was actually buried at Dunfermline Abbey after like a really long multi-day traveling funeral where like people could come see the body and all this weird stuff.
That's a lot.
So it gets weirder.
Oh, dear.
His good buddy Sir James Douglas and a group of knights take his heart and put it in a tiny little casket that Mr. Sir Douglas wears around his neck with him. And they sail off to Spain because I had to really dig into this. At that point, Spain was in control of Jerusalem, which is a part of history I don't understand.
Sure.
But
yeah.
so they end up in Spain. Somehow they are involved in a skirmish, and every one of these knights is killed. But they still manage to dig up Mr. Robert's heart and ship it back to Scotland, where it ends up in an unmarked grave, and it's dug up like twice and reburied before finally somebody buries it at Melrose Abbey like he asked.
That's...
Isn't that wild?
First of all, why do you care after you're dead? Like, real dead. Heart's out of your body dead.
Right.
Why do you care where your heart is?
And
You don't know.
I think if somebody asked that of me, I'd be like, sure, buddy, no problem. Don't worry about it. And then when he died, I'd be like, we're not really going to do that, right?
We're not actually. We're not even considering this, right?
So the movie Braveheart is not about Robert the Bruce. It's about William Wallace, but it has...
But it's a good movie, so I thought I'd mention it.
Yeah. But it has Robert the Bruce in it, and some sources say that the nickname Braveheart was actually Robert's nickname, not William Wallace's.
That's a cool nickname.
Right? But they were kind of
maybe
along the
that's
same
why he wanted
time.
his heart to travel.
Because it was brave.
Because it was brave.
And
And
it
it
needed
was
to go to the
brave.
Holy Land.
It's where all brave people go.
And there is another movie called The Outlaw King that had Chris Pine in it that released much more recently, like 2019, and that one is actually about Robert the Bruce. So that's where the name Bruce comes from for Bruce Wayne. And then we get into the last name. So for Wayne, they found records of a man named Anthony Wayne, and he was an American soldier during the Revolutionary War and then became politically involved and is actually considered a founding father. which
Oh.
I thought was wild because it doesn't sound like any name I've ever heard.
Right.
One thing that kept sticking with me, it kept talking about how, like, he has this really great military career and all these different battles and things. It kept talking about the Battle of Monmouth. And if you have seen the movie Hamilton or the musical Hamilton as many times as I have, there is a line in, the song is called Stay Alive, where they're talking about the General Charles Lee. And Hamilton's mad because Charles Lee is made second in command and he's cranky about it, and he says the line is that Charles Lee shits the bed at the Battle of Monmouth. And this is a battle that Wayne actually led. So Charles Lee was the general, and he called a hasty retreat when sources now say he maybe shouldn't have, and basically deserted Wayne and his forces at the Battle of Monmouth.
Okay.
So he had to be rescued. He was subdued and pinned in. Washington has to bring in another group of troops to basically save him. Honestly, a lot of Wayne's story reminds me a little bit of Hamilton after making that connection. He's born as a poor farmer. He starts to work as, the war starts, or they start looking like war might be a thing. He uses this as his chance to become someone known. So Hamilton is very focused on creating a name for himself, and this Anthony Wayne, it sounds pretty similar.
Not giving up my shot.
Exactly. He was very well educated, maybe didn't have a lot of money, but he was still educated, especially compared to a lot of other people in those days. He was well read. It was mentioned that he would often quote Shakespeare and Julius Caesar during the war when he was fighting.
That is either really cool or incredibly pretentious.
Well, it's hard to say either way. So he does have a long and mildly successful military career. He has some pretty significant losses that people associate with him, and he's kind of known as a loose cannon. His nickname becomes Mad Anthony Wayne, and the stories weren't sure if that was due to his apparently legendary anger, or how he kept his troops in line, or because he used army tactics that were considered really bold at the time. I imagine it's probably a combination of both.
I mean, I would agree.
Yeah. But I also think it was probably common back then, the Hamilton and Wayne story of this is how men were able to make names for themselves. If they were born into situations where they weren't automatically going to be rich because of their family, it was kind of all of their plan was to rise up through the ranks in the army and fight in the war and become a war hero. And that's how you could become powerful and famous, or powerful and rich.
You're in front of the president or some powerful generals.
Yep, and Wayne did fight with George Washington, very similar to the Alexander Hamilton story, was in his groups and his troops. And then once the war ended and the war was won, Wayne was invited to join in the Congressional Convention and helped ratify the Constitution and did all of that, and stayed on supporting George Washington, which then eventually got him back into a military career. He did try to, after the war, go back home and he bought land and had a tannery and a plantation. It did mention that he had been kind of anti-slavery even during the Revolutionary War, but then he did own slaves after the war. It talks about how he bought them. He is quoted as saying, he didn't think people were treating slaves correctly, and he maybe was known for, having a light hand when it came to owning slaves, but he did still own slaves. Turns out he was awful at running a business anyway. He was really distracted by, trying to be a founding father and start the government, so his tannery and plantations failed. And so he went back to the government, did the Congressional Convention, did the Constitution, ran for various positions in government, won some, lost some. I think he eventually becomes a House representative for Pennsylvania, gets in tight with George Washington, and eventually restarts his military career. He basically becomes the first general or whatever to start they call it the Legion of the United States. It's basically the first army.
That sounds really comic booky, which
right?
is ironic.
The Legion of the United States. So he's credited with basically starting the building blocks for the United States Armed Forces and setting up how training is done and boot camp and all of those things. But he also had a lot of faults. He basically dies alone and broke even with this relatively good military career, he spends all his money. He's well known for cheating on his wife, so she becomes estranged from him. He's kind of one of those guys that had a good career, a good military career, and maybe peaked, and then just never settles
He's a
down.
high school football star.
Yeah.
Sorry, anybody who played high school football.
Right.
As long as you don't act like a jerk, you're cool. I still don't understand football, but
Sports
it's
ball.
not your fault. Sports ball.
So then Wayne's second in command, James Wilkinson, is, supposed to be, so they're both up for this job at the same time, and George Washington picks Wayne to be in control and gives this James Wilkinson guy the second in command position. And this starts issues. This Wilkinson actively works against Wayne and does it all very subvertly. And Wayne has no idea. Thinks he's like a good friend. Thinks they're kind of buddies. And it all comes out later that Wilkinson had actually been like actively working against him and like trying to smear his good name and all of these things. Then Wayne finds out that Wilkinson has actually been a Spanish spy this whole time and launches like a super quiet investigation and is going back to Pennsylvania to like start a court martial and have him investigated. And he suddenly dies of a stomach ulcer on this return trip. Wilkinson goes on to become the senior officer, so takes over after his position.
What?
And isn't found out to be a spy for Spain for years.
Wow.
So it's now thought that it's probably likely that not only did Wilkinson murder him, he probably poisoned him, but then they also found out all of the stuff he was doing quietly before Wayne's death.
That was a plot twist I did not see coming.
Right? Strangely enough, Wayne is also buried in multiple places. He was originally buried at Fort Presque Isle, but then his son comes around a few years later, digs up the body, boils any bones to get them clean, puts the bones in his saddlebag, and brings them home to Wayne, Pennsylvania, where he reburies them. However, since he only took the bones, all of the other remains are still buried in their original resting place.
That's so weird.
Right? Per Wikipedia, I don't know enough about the armed services to know how important this is, but it says several of Wayne's uniforms, ranks, tactics, and military legions exist today in the Army. His legions were renamed regiments. One of them is now known as the 3rd Regiment of Infantry, which is best known for its role in the changing of the guard ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier at the Arlington National Cemetery. So some of his military things that he set up back when the country was first being formed
are still
in place today.
Huh.
So I talked about the slavery thing. There is also a lot of information that he probably wasn't such a great guy when it came to the mistreatment of Native Americans in the United States, because once we won the Revolutionary War, we started focusing on growing our country and taking over all of that empty land out west and, all the terrible things we did at that time. He does make appearance in the Batman comic books. So Bill Finger and the other guy's name that I already forgot.
Because Bill it doesn't have Finger in it?
Right. Bill and Bob actually wrote him in as a direct descendant of Bruce Wayne's. So at some point, Batman actually time travels, goes into the past, and meets Mad Anthony Wayne as like his long-lost descendant or something like that. Crazy. He also makes an appearance in the books Outlander.
That's so wild that they would have the knowledge of that to create Batman. When was Batman created?
Like 1939,
That's
I think it
where
said.
Exactly the number I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So
basically, any town or fort named Wayne in the United States is probably named after Mad Anthony Wayne. And even though this isn't connected to Batman, I did also find out that John Wayne he picked his stage name or picked his name after Anthony Wayne as well.
Goodness, that's crazy. Okay, let's just be honest. I first of all never thought about how Batman got his name.
Right?
He's just Batman.
It's just the way it is.
But it goes so much deeper than
Wasn't
I ever
that a much
realized.
cooler story than you would have thought?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the plot twist of the Spanish spy, crazy.
Yeah.
That was very impressive.
Like, my dad was like, look at this thing that Tony sent me about the original Batman. And I was like, that would be such a cool podcast story. And then I read it and I was like, that's a fake story that the internet made up. And what am I going to do now?
What do I do?
Robert the Bruce and Anthony Wayne came through with some good stories.
They pulled it out at the last second. So anyway, good stuff.
Yeah.
I'd like to know how I got my name.
We'll have Carla on next week.
I just thought it was pretty. Okay, well,
Yeah.
This has been Dungeons and Dopamine Podcast.
You can listen to us anywhere you stream podcasts and even on YouTube.
You can support us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/dungeonsdopamine.
You can also find us on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit. Oh, and Twitch and Discord.
We do so much.
All the things.
I haven't streamed in a long time, though.
You
Sorry.
should get on that.
I do have an
We
Egyptian game to play.
Downloaded Hogwarts finally.
Oh, nice.
The,
yeah.
Whatever it's called. Because it was on sale for $20. Down from like $80.
I think Ryan has it, and I can use it because it's in his Steam library. But I've been playing Baldur's Gate, so I haven't touched anything
Still? Jeez.
I wonder where my hours are at. I should report that next time. Anyways, you can reach out to us on any of those social medias and at dungeonsdopamine@yahoo.com.
Dungeons and Dopamine is edited and published by Argyle Pigeon Productions.
Take this role very seriously. This is the most important part of the podcast.
I like it even better now that it's visual.
Right? You were the only one that got to enjoy that before.
Right?
The preparation,
The lead up. What's she gonna do it this week?
Will it be sad pigeon?
Will it be a happy pigeon? Will it be a drunk pigeon?
Yes,
Maybe.
it will. Always will. Okay, the
right.
last line is mine. Thank you. Love you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.